The New York City commute. It can be fast, it can be slow, and it can be unpredictable. But despite the rush of the commute, violence can erupt when New Yorkers least expect it. In this edition of Crime in the City, we take a look at the crimes that have struck on the tracks, roads, and even water, both past and present. This is Crime in the City, Commuter Crimes. For our first story, we begin with a typical morning rush hour that turned into complete chaos on the subway. That's when a gunman tossed smoke bombs inside a train and opened fire, striking 10 people and injuring many others.
That's right there, Stephen. Teresa. Well, first of all, I'll tell you this at the top. Just about every agency that you can imagine is involved with this investigation. Talking about the NYPD, the FBI, the ATF, and the NYPD's Joint Terrorism Task Force. Although at this point, this attack today is not being investigated as a terrorist attack. And as bad as it was today, and it was bad, it could have been even worse. Police saying the gunman's gun jammed, preventing him from shooting even more people. Panicked commuters filled with fear escaping from a smoke-filled subway car on the N train at the 36th Street station in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. The NYPD saying the suspect popped 2 smoke canisters to confuse riders during the height of the morning rush before firing his gun 33 times.
Donned what appeared to be a gas mask. He then took a canister out of his bag and opened it. The train at that time began to fill with smoke. He then opened fire, striking multiple people on the subway and in the platform.
Police say the suspect's gun jammed, preventing him from firing more shots. Authorities are looking for 62-year-old Frank James. He is about 6 feet, 2 inches tall, and 250 pounds. Police are calling him a person of interest. In all of the chaos, the suspect was mistaken by many for an MTA worker.
Wearing an orange-green nylon-type construction vest. He also had on a gray hoodie, a surgical mask, and a neon green construction helmet.
Police say James rented this U-Haul van in Philadelphia yesterday. He parked it here on Kings Highway in Gravesend, Brooklyn about 5 a.m. and then walked a few blocks to get on the N train. After the shooting, the keys to that van, James' credit card, his jacket, and the gun used in the shooting were all found at the scene.
As detectives processed the crime scene, they recovered a 9mm semi-automatic handgun, extended magazines, and a hatchet. Also found is a liquid we believe to be gasoline and a bag containing consumer-grade fireworks and a hobby fuse.
Mayor Adams appearing virtually since he remains under quarantine with COVID.
You have my word as a former police officer, a fellow New Yorker, and your mayor, that we will end this epidemic and that will capture the individual responsible for today's attack. We will capture him and prosecute him to the full extent of the law.
And by the way, the person of interest, Frank James, he has both an address and a driver's license in the state of Wisconsin. He also has an address in Philadelphia. Police also saying that he has posted videos to YouTube ranting and criticizing against Mayor Adams' policies, as well as other issues, including homelessness. Back inside to you.
All right, Linda, thank you. And there are a lot of questions tonight about how this gunman escaped the chaos and why there were no working surveillance cameras in that 36th Street stop. Footage that might have been helpful in tracking the shooter's movements after the train stopped. Mayor Adams says there was, quote, some sort of malfunction, although the head of the MTA says police did use other cameras along the N line to look for evidence.
Cops today were looking at cameras up and down the system because they wanted to see where this criminal had entered the system, as well as where he may have left.
And in the meantime, authorities are looking into why the surveillance system in that particular station appears to have been offline this morning. We want to update you now on the conditions of the victims who were hurt during this morning's attack. 10 people were shot and more than a dozen suffered other injuries.
That's right. Several of the victims were teenagers on their way to school, and they were brought to Maimonides Hospital in Borough Park for treatment. Fox 5's Arthur Chin is there now with an update on how everyone is doing tonight. Arthur.
Steve, Teresa, it's been a little bit of a challenge tracking the number of victims today, in part because there were so many and also because they dispersed to different hospitals. Some of them got there on their own. The tally that we have tonight is that at least 29 people were hurt today. 10 of them were shot. 5 of them were critically wounded. Others were hit by shrapnel or overcome by smoke inhalation. Now, 5 of the victims were brought here to Maimonides in Borough Park, in part because of their strong pediatric unit here. The ages of those victims give pause. A 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, and an 18-year-old. All of them were on their way to school this morning, officials tell us, when they became victims of this mass shooting. Now, 2 of the victims remained here tonight, an 18-year-old with a gunshot wound to the leg and a 16-year-old who was shot in his hand, his thumb severed. Surgeons tonight embarking on the complicated process of reattaching it, hoping to get it to work again.
He had a gunshot wound to the hand. It was a pretty devastating injury to the thumb, and it destroyed a lot of the bone, the joint, the tendons, the nerves. We were able to salvage the thumb.
Tonight, Governor Hochul rode the subway down to Maimonides Hospital to speak with patients that remain here, including the 16-year-old. She described her conversation with his very distraught mother.
His mother does not speak English. She is Chinese. She is there alone. And it was so sad to hear her, through a translator, talk about her anxiety. All she has is her son, and just the 2 of them, and she does not know what she's going to do when she leaves. So I had a long, long hug with her and let her know that we send the love of all New Yorkers. She just lost her job as a home health care aide. If anyone wants a very warm, caring person to be a home health care aide, I'm going to give her a great recommendation.
Some outside this hospital tonight have asked us why these victims were targeted. The neighborhood where the shooting took place is a predominantly working class neighborhood of Hispanic and Asian New Yorkers, but they've also expressed gratitude that at this point tonight, none of the victims are in life-threatening situations, even the ones who are in critical condition. Officials say it's a testament to the New Yorkers who stepped in today to selflessly help others.
Frank James, the convicted gunman, is currently serving a life sentence. Before that terror attack shocked New York City, there was one that happened years ago in Lower Manhattan. Edward Leary, an unemployed computer programmer from New Jersey, was charged with setting off a firebomb on a crowded subway car.
Well, police have begun piecing together a picture of the man accused of this horrible crime that injured 45 people. After the smoke cleared, he was found wandering the streets in Brooklyn, as Eric Shawn just told us. Apparently, he walked all the way through the subway tunnel. He was severely hurt, and he asked police to call him an ambulance. Susan Kelleher is in Boerum Hill, Brooklyn, and she has an update on that story for us. Susan?
Well, Lynn, bomb suspect Ed Leary's car is just one of the many pieces in this bizarre puzzle, and it was a parking ticket that led police to that car this morning, parked on this block here at 98 Smith Street. When bomb squad investigators realized it was Leary's car, they weren't about to take any chances.
Dressed in protective gear, a bomb squad investigator does a careful search of bomb suspect Ed Leary's '86 Dodge. The discovery forced the evacuation of 500 people over a 2-block area.
I thought the building was going to blow up.
Pretty scary?
Yes, very.
After a 20-minute search, investigators found no explosive materials in the car.
Do you have any evidence from the searches you did at the other residences or that other officials did that there was definitely something in the car? Did you have any information, or were you just being very cautious?
We were being cautious. I wasn't privy to any additional information of that nature.
Ed Leary was stopped by police after the 4-train firebombing. He was badly burned, his clothes in tatters, when he was found at the Clark Street station in Brooklyn. At his Scotch Plains home last night, federal agents seized several bags of evidence. Leary was living the good life here, working as a computer programmer at Merrill Lynch until 1 year ago when he was terminated for performance reasons. He's reportedly on the drug Prozac for depression and is separated from his wife, Marge. He owns 2 units in this Prospect Heights co-op, where his wife may now be living.
What kind of a guy was he?
Always very nice with me, very nice indeed. Anytime I had needed anything done, my TV or anything, he took care of it.
Police did remove several items from Leary's car, among them a flare, some maps. They also removed other things they wouldn't tell us about. They did dust that car for fingerprints. By the way, this car was found not far from where police found Leary at that Clark Street station. How it all fits in this investigation still remains to be seen.
Edward Leary is currently serving a 94-year prison sentence. A driver in the Bronx said he is lucky to be alive after a passenger opened fire, and the entire terrifying experience was all caught on camera.
Well, a driver in the Bronx sharing details of a terrifying ordeal.
Yeah, he says a passenger opened fire on his car and it was all caught on video. Richard Giacobas is live for us in the newsroom with more on this wild story. Richard.
It's a wild video, Chris and Bianca, and the cab driver who was a victim to those 5 gunshots to his cab fired at his cab is speaking out this afternoon saying he's lucky to be alive. We'll hear from 26-year-old Felix Himinian in a moment. But first, we're going to look at dash cam video from that cab and the moment those shots were fired.
This isn't Uber, buddy. You getting me tight.
Frightening. You can see Felix jump when the shots are fired from the right side passenger door. And we'll back up the video. Now, the passenger, a young man with a facial covering, tells Felix that he has to take a different route to Bronx Boulevard just before 4 a.m. This happened on Friday, May 3rd. The passenger then yells at the driver, telling him, "I didn't call you. This is an Uber." That's when he opens the car door, rolls out, gets up, and starts firing. Luckily, Felix was not hurt, but he's scared, fearing for his life, and now joining the New York State Federation of Taxi Drivers, calling to bring back NYPD checkpoints where drivers give permission to cops to search for the passengers and their vehicles. That ensures riders are unarmed when boarding a cab.
He basically feels that he's happy it happened to him, because if it would have happened to someone else, maybe they wouldn't have been prepared like he was prepared.
Here is the video coming this afternoon of that cab with the 5 bullet holes. And the plea from the United Federation of Taxi Drivers is for drivers to not pick up masked riders. There is a $3,000 reward being offered this afternoon if anyone has any information on the passenger who fired that weapon. He's described as a man between 19 and 25 years old with light skin and a slim build.
Panic struck passengers on a Staten Island ferry when Juan Gonzalez, a homeless Cuban refugee wielding a 2-foot sword, killed 2 people and injured 9 others.
Good evening. Bill is off tonight. Jim Ryan is here with me. After 4 days of magic that involved millions here in New York, there was a moment of madness under the Lady in the Harbor. It came from a man by the name of Juan Gonzalez. He says he came here from Cuba during the so-called Freedom Flotilla back in '77. He's been one of New York's homeless. His home tonight is jail. He's charged with using a sword to kill 2 people on the Staten Island ferry and wounding 9 others. If it hadn't been for a retired cop on board, it would have been worse. You will meet him after this report on the violence from Rosanna Scotto.
The ferry was on its way from Manhattan to Staten Island about 8:30 this morning. It was less than half full. The 500 people aboard the vessel were either just getting off work or out-of-towners taking in the last sights before heading home. When suddenly, just moments after the ferry passed the Statue of Liberty, Juan Gonzalez allegedly whipped out a 24-inch sword and began slashing and stabbing people. One of the passengers described the scene as mass hysteria.
Yeah, it was mass panic. It was, what are you going to do? You see a guy running at you with a sword.
Edward Del Pino, a retired police officer, stopped the slashing spree. Del Pino was sitting on board the ferry when he witnessed people running past him, decided to investigate what was happening, and caught the attacker right in the act.
To my horror, I see him go in, and then all of a sudden I see him come up like this and lunge down repeatedly. I drew my gun. My first thing was to get him to stop stabbing, and I threw a quick shot at him. I yelled, "Drop it," and he came up again, and I fired. Then he dove behind the first set of horseshoe seats, and all I could see was the blade of the knife sticking out. So I came up, I approached him with the gun, and I told him, "Kick out the knife." So he kicked the blade out. I said, "Now get up and lay down on the seat. If you move, you're dead."
The captain of this ferry said he's never seen anything like this in his 40 years of service, and he added, thank goodness for the retired police officer. It could have been a lot worse.
That man, whoever he was a hero, right? He's great.
What would have happened if he wasn't there?
There might have been more killings.
As it was, 2 people died of very deep stab wounds. 9 others were injured, some seriously. Mayor Koch visited them at Bailey Seton and St. Vincent's hospitals.
The first person I spoke to was Mr. Nichols, who comes from Kansas. And he was telling me, he said, Mayor, it's nobody's fault. It's not the city's fault. It's not your fault. We had a wonderful time, and we wanted to go back this morning to get some last pictures of the Statue of Liberty, and it happened, and don't be upset and don't worry. He was comforting me instead of my wanting to comfort him.
Why did Juan Gonzalez go berserk and stab these people? I asked him, and he claimed he was told to. Why'd you do it?
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit told me.
In 2000, after spending 14 years at the Bronx Psychiatric Center, Gonzalez was released. He was banned from the Staten Island Ferry or traveling to Staten Island. Another mass shooting on a train, this time on Long Island. Colin Ferguson, a man from Brooklyn armed with a gun, opens fire inside a commuter train to Hicksville, killing 6 people and injuring 19 others.
Right, that man Colin Ferguson is in custody, and we know a lot about him now. At the same time, the horrible images of the LIVERY massacre are still vividly etched in all of our minds. Tonight, team coverage from the investigation to the cautious commuters to the words of grieving friends and relatives. First, the latest grim figures. 5 people now dead from that gunman's bullets. They all lived on Long Island. 20 more were wounded. Eric Shawn is here right now with some exclusive new details. Eric.
That's right, John. Authorities blame Colin Ferguson's racial hatred for this horrible tragedy. And we have learned he apparently blamed racism for another incident on the subway last year. But first, the alleged gunman.
Go. Why'd you do it? Help me! Help me!
Why'd you do it?
Help me!
Now, he pleads for help. But last night, Colin Ferguson had no sympathy for his alleged victims. Innocent commuters on their way home when they were cut down by a madman with a gun. 5 were killed, 23 wounded, and police say the reason was racially motivated revenge, as Ferguson allegedly launched his own one-man terrorist attack on the white and Asian suburban commuters returning to Long Island. Ferguson is 35 years old, single, unemployed, born in Kingston, Jamaica. He lives in Brooklyn, and authorities say he harbors a deep hatred for whites, Asians, conservative blacks, and chose to kill on the Long Island Railroad and not in New York City because he did not want to embarrass Mayor David Dinkins, who is also an African American. But as he sat in the backseat of a police car driving to his arraignment, Ferguson pleaded for us to help him, and he told me the claim he hates whites is not true.
Help me!
Why? Why do you hate people? They say you hate whites. You did it to...
That's a lie. That's a lie.
You did it to
The person who committed this crime is an animal who turned that Long Island Railroad car into a death chamber.
The paperwork reveals strong hostility being harbored by him in terms of racism.
They say Ferguson calmly walked backwards down the train aisle, opening fire at the terrified passengers with this unlicensed 9mm semi-automatic handgun that he bought for $400 legally in California. It was a murder spree that lasted a gruesome and agonizing 2 minutes until he was tackled by 3 hero passengers. And police say they found 100 more rounds of ammunition in Ferguson's bag.
And it seems he had hostilities regarding a major portion of the population and a variety of institutions.
Those hostilities were revealed in handwritten notes police found on Ferguson.
He mentions Adelphi University, where he was a student. He mentions the governor's office, Governor Cuomo's office and staff. He talks about Uncle Tom Negroes. He talks about rich black attorneys.
The notes name Brooklyn activist Herbert Daughtry, Harlem Reverend Calvin Butts, and lawyer C. Vernon Mason, who says he's never heard of Ferguson.
This man should be behind bars, and he should stay behind bars, and they should throw away the key.
Ferguson allegedly declares, New York City was spared because of my respect for Mayor David Dinkins and Police Commissioner Raymond Kelly. Nassau County is the venue. Additional reasons for this? Sloppy running of the number 2 train. It is racism by Caucasians and false allegations against me by the filthy Caucasian racist female on the number 1 line. For this tragic shooting is not the first time Ferguson allegedly caused trouble on a train. In October of last year, a white female passenger on a northbound IRT train accused Ferguson of elbowing, threatening, and yelling profanities at her as they sat next to each other. Transit police were called and he filed a civil complaint against the police, allegedly sending this letter to Police Commissioner Kelly, charging the cops and the woman who complained were all racist against him. Also mentioned in the note was Manhattan lawyer Lauren Abramson, who he went to see about a case. She says he even threatened her.
I was not surprised. Well, he had threatened our office in late September or early October. And he had, at that time, although I just didn't even think about it, at that time he had stated that it wasn't a direct threat, but he had been calling and he didn't believe that I was not in the office when I really was on trial, and he kept calling and calling, and he finally said to somebody at our office, he reminded them that there had just been a killing in California where a gentleman had gone into a law office and killed a number of people. So we took that as a threat, and we did inform the police.
Colin Ferguson is currently serving his sentence of 315 years and 8 months to life in prison. Jordan Neely, who was reportedly screaming aggressively on a subway train, was placed in a chokehold by Daniel Penny. Jordan Neely died, and what followed was the case that caught the attention of the nation.
Dozens show up to a vigil for the homeless man who died in an altercation on the subway. It happened on an F train Monday afternoon. Now, dramatic video of this incident has been released. Fox 5's Arthur Chien has more.
Tensions continue to flare at a vigil held over the death of a homeless man who was put in a headlock on a northbound F train Monday afternoon after he reportedly started screaming aggressively at riders. Dozens this afternoon took to the platform at the Broadway Lafayette station protesting his death. Meanwhile, new video shows riders trying to subdue Jordan Keeley. Lying on the floor of the subway car, a Marine veteran has Neely in a sleeper hold from behind, while another man tries to immobilize his arms.
That was deeply disturbing, and that causes a lot of fear in people.
A separate video shows EMTs trying to revive the 30-year-old who has a criminal record with a history of 44 prior arrests, many of them subway-related, including disorderly conduct, assault, and fare evasion. As for the 24-year-old Marine veteran, he was taken into custody and interviewed by police and released without charges. Some are calling for his arrest. Others say he acted to subdue someone who was clearly threatening people in that subway car. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office confirms they are investigating this case to see if charges are warranted.
The critical question here will be what was in the head of the person doing the subduing, right? If that person reasonably believed that there was some imminent harm to himself or others, then he could act in a way that would be excessive.
Meanwhile, groups, including the Coalition for the Homeless, see Neely's death as New York's failure to provide crucial mental health services, although it is unknown if Neely ever received or rejected mental health services from the city.
Two things are crucial here. The first are the witnesses. Do the people in that subway car feel they were being threatened? The other is Mr. Neely's autopsy, which is underway at the medical examiner's office.
On December 9th, 2024, Daniel Penny, a former Marine, was found not guilty on all charges. Before the controversial chokehold trial of Daniel Penny, there was another case that divided the city. On December 22nd, 1984, Bernard Goetz shot 4 youths on a subway train in Manhattan. Goetz eventually turned himself into police, and the case sparked a national debate about self-defense.
This is Dave Browdy. When Bernhard Goetz returns to New York, probably tomorrow, he will face initial charges of illegal weapons possession and 4 counts of attempted murder. But veteran defense attorneys say by the time a grand jury reviews the charges stemming from the December 22nd shooting, unless Goetz has made self-incriminating statements, he may not be in all that much trouble. Their rationale, that Goetz, under New York state law, has a reasonable claim of self-defense.
Our law permits acts that would otherwise be illegal to be committed in a legal sense and without any criminal penalty attaching under circumstances where the actor, as the case may be, or the victim is in fear of imminent physical injury.
The former assistant district attorney turned defense counsel says it does not matter whether the 4 youths who were shot actually displayed weapons. The question will be what Goetz believed about his situation, whether he thought himself in danger. And today, friends of Bernhard Goetz were pondering what has happened to a man they describe as quiet, educated, even a little nerdy, to transform him from a model citizen to a confessed gunman. They point to the 1981 incident at the Canal and Varick subway station, in which Getz was mugged and injured by 3 youths.
If he was in the subway and there were muggers around, he would be the person that they would pick on. And I guess it got to the point where he feared for his life. He knew it had happened before, and maybe he was afraid it would happen again, and he didn't want it to happen again. So I guess in his own way he took it upon himself to defend himself, because in his own mind, and in my mind too, he felt that the police and the city justice had let him down.
According to his friends, Getz felt let down because the mugging case was handled in mediation rather than with criminal charges. And Getz's friends are not pleased with police statements that they plan no charges against the 4 youths who were shot in this subway incident. In fact, Getz's defense attorney, once one is retained here, can be expected to have his client file a complaint against the 4, asking that they be charged with attempted robbery.
Getz was acquitted of the attempted murder and first-degree assault charges and convicted of criminal possession of a weapon in the 3rd degree. A judge sentenced him to 1 year incarceration and a $5,000 fine. Getz ultimately served 8 months. A subway ride ends in horror when 57-year-old Debrina Quam from Toms River, New Jersey, who was sleeping on a train, is set on fire. Sebastian Zapeta, the 33-year-old undocumented Guatemalan immigrant accused in this case, has been charged with multiple counts of murder and arson.
For some breaking news right now, a 33-year-old man charged with murder after police say he set a woman on fire on the subway. Welcome to the 5 o'clock news. I'm Bianca Peters. Steve and Natasha have the day off. Well, we are learning tonight that suspect in that horrific attack is a Guatemalan citizen who was in the U.S. illegally. Fox 5's Lisa Evers at the 60th Precinct in Coney Island, where he was just walked out by police. Lisa, I saw that video. A lot of people asked him why he did it, but he remained silent.
We still don't know the answer to that. This investigation's now in the very early stages, Bianca. Well, the suspect in this disturbing crime was charged with first-degree murder in the deadly torching of a woman subway rider here in Coney Island on Sunday morning. And he was actually behind bars now because of a 911 call that was made by 3 teenagers. 33-year-old Sebastian Zapeta was brought out from the 60th Precinct in handcuffs after his arrest for the shocking death of a woman on a subway car here early Sunday morning. He's been charged with first and second degree murder plus first degree arson. The NYPD circulated these images of him, and 3 teenagers who recognized him called 911 and alerted police. Investigators say Zapeta is an illegal migrant. He walked up to the woman and used his lighter to set her on fire, then watched while she burned, and flames consumed her body. Police and MTA workers rushed to her aid and put out the fire, but it was too late. In a statement, a spokesperson for ICE says Zapeta came to the U.S. illegally in 2018 from Guatemala and was sent back, and at some point he returned again illegally to the United States. Now, a spokesperson for the Brooklyn DA told us just a short time ago that he's expected to be arraigned on these very serious charges sometime tonight or tomorrow. Now, if he's convicted, he's looking at multiple sentences of life behind bars with no parole, and there is also the possibility, because of his immigration status, of deportation.
Sebastian Zapeta is currently awaiting trial. That's this week's Crime in the City. Subscribe for more at youtube.com/Fox5NY.